Hello. Today, I'm taking a moment to talk about Nataruk, the bow that was introduced during the new War Quest. Needless to say, there have been several videos made about this bow since the new war dropped, and for good reason. Too long, didn't read version. Nataruk is not a bow. Nataruk is a sentient forged slaughter delivery system for those moments when death absolutely has to be there on time. Among the bows in Warframe's arsenal, Nataruk is a bit of a curiosity. For starters, it has an infinite ammo pool, which, needless to say, is awesome. Also, unlike other bows, it has 3 modes of fire. Quick shot, which, fired with a light tap of the trigger, hits like a truck. Charged shot, which is a standard draw back and fire bow shot that does obscene amounts of damage, and with good reason, seeing as its base critical and status chances each sit at 50%. And then, nestled between the two, is perfect shot. With a base critical chance of 60% and a base status chance sitting at a fiercely respectable 50%, perfect shot is basically a gift-wrapped notification informing the recipient that their free trial of life has now expired. Nataruk is a bow that rewards precision, but is equally kind with its quickfire and charged shots. To give you an idea of just how obscene this bow is, here's a summary from the wiki comparing Nataruk to other bows. Quote the wiki. Advantages: quick shot, high damage, charged shot, high crit chance, very high damage, high status chance. Perfect shot, very high crit chance, high damage, high status chance, and an above average crit multiplier. Across the board, Nataruk boasts the highest reload speed and, as mentioned before, infinite ammo. As for disadvantages, all modes of fire have a very low effective fire rate, which is understandable given the weapon type. Additionally, Nataruk has a very low Riven disposition. That's it. So, you might be disappointed about the low Riven disposition. Understandable. Lots of people love Rivens, myself included, but here's the thing. Nataruk doesn't need a Riven to make it viable. This bow deals a 5-star dining experience of pain and suffering. With a good build, almost nothing in the standard Origin system can stand up to it. The only reason to seek out a Riven for this bow is if you are running the kind of high-level content that demands an extra little dash of violence, like status combos, or bonus damage in multi-shot percentages. But, enough about the bow itself. Time to talk about builds. It should be noted that my Nataruk has been formed 3 times as of the making of this video, so please keep that in mind when considering capacity. Personally, I started off building Nataruk for critical, with great results. However, a Nataruk build for status is just as devastating. For example, a Magtoxin Nataruk versus a Corpus Sortie mission that has fortified enemy shields as the modifier. Fortified shields, you say? Grineer and Infested stand no chance against a status build Nataruk, and Sentients tend to get wrecked just as hard, even with their damage adaptation kicking in. As for Corpus, if it's not an alerted nullifier, it's going to die screaming just as fast and hard as everything else, if not faster. I'll be the first to admit that there are almost certainly better and more destructive ways to build Nataruk for critical, or status for that matter, but this is what I'm running, and I've had fantastic results thus far. So, here's the setup. Serration, Prime Shred, Hammer Shot, Critical Delay, Galvanized Chamber, Galvanized Scope, Galvanized Aptitude, and Vital Sense. To cap things off, I have my Nataruk fitted with the primary Merciless Arcane, and as a bit of personal preference, I also have Hush equipped. Nataruk is one of the few bows that's actually loud by default. As a habit, I usually keep my weapons silent unless I have a reason to go loud. Alternatively, if you don't happen to have the galvanized mods readily available, the standard versions, Split Chamber, Rifle Aptitude, and Argon Scope, can be substituted in without issue. Even with every Galvanized mod swapped for its vanilla version, this build will still obliterate pretty much anything in the standard Origin system, and will remain serviceable even in certain parts of Steel Path. Additionally, Point Strike can easily be subbed in for critical delay, as can Shred for Prime Shred. The only real difference between the Galvanized and standard builds are the stacking buffs that the Galvanized mods provide. That said, the Galvanized version is probably preferable for long missions with a constant flow of enemies, like survivals or defense missions. As a bonus, due to Nataruk's insane critical stats, it's entirely possible to build strictly for status and still do some particularly nice criticals. It's the best of both worlds. Serration, Galvanized Chamber, Galvanized Aptitude, or their standard variants, make a solid foundation. After that, it's just a matter of what enemy type you are building for. Personally, for an anti-Grineer build, I go with a viral or a viral radiation combo with a full set of 60/60 mods. Malignant Force, Rime rounds, Thermite rounds and High Voltage. For an anti-Corpus build, Toxin or a Mag Toxin combo. Rime rounds, High Voltage and Malignant Force, with Hammer Shot providing bonus status chance and critical damage. To cap things off, again, as a matter of preference, I use Shred for punch throw and a charge rate boost, and Hush as a silencer. If you're going solo status type, say, Viral instead of Viral Rad, you can sub in Point Strike or Critical Delay for that critical cherry on the murder cake. Personally, I prefer the status crit combo approach with critical delay. For Grineer, a viral build with Malignant Force and Primed Cryo rounds. For Corpus, a Mag Toxin build with Malignant Force, High Voltage and Primed Cryo rounds. So, there you have it. Nataruk, the sentient destroyer of pretty much everything. All in all, I have to say that Nataruk is now easily one of my favorite weapons. There are a handful of weapons that I use regularly, and Nataruk has definitely found a home on that list. This bow also left me wondering. With the presence of something as obscene as Nataruk in player arsenals, perhaps it's an indication of the kind of challenges we'll be seeing going forward from the new war. Maybe, maybe not. But with all the stuff that was introduced during the Angels of the Zeraman update, and the introduction of the Incarnate weapons, I'm leaning towards yes. Oh, and before I go, I don't usually do build videos, but I really enjoyed putting this together. That said, I know everyone says it, but if you happen to find any part of this useful, please kindly poke the like button and let me know. Questions, comments and suggestions are also always welcome. And, if you made it this far, like always, thank you kindly for watching.